What? Wait, I got it. Welcome, everybody, to the broadcast for the World Doom League Summer 2020 season. I'm Xenaero, and I am joined this week by a special co-host, Commissioner Ralphis. How you doing today, Ralph?
Hey, I'm doing great, Zen. Thanks for having me. I am very excited that we're able to close this season out with a 3-game triple header. We've already seen one game earlier today, which was pretty... well, at least the first part of the game was very closely contested between Demon Slayers and, the Demon Slayers and Boomstick Warriors. Boomstick Warriors ultimately ended up winning that game 2-0 after a close first round and a not as close second round. And Boomstick Warriors punched their way into the top 4 of the league. They're definitely in the playoffs, and they knocked the Demon Slayers out of contention.
That's right, and now we have our 8 playoff teams, and currently going forward from this, it'll be all about the seeding. Speaking of, we have our 2 teams here. Do you want to run us through one or both of the teams?
Sure. Let's talk about both of these teams here. Both teams, kind of a tale of 2 different stories this season. At the outset of the season, everybody kind of was predicting Rip and Tear to kind of look like the number 1 team in the league. As it turns out, right now they're sitting in the 8th spot. They barely are in the playoffs at this point. But that win earlier by the Boomstick Warriors did ensure that Rip and Tear is in the playoffs. Right now in the standings, the Sexual Panthers are sitting in 4th place spot, and Rip and Tear is in 8th place. So, depending on what happens here today, if the Sexual Panthers are able to pull out a win, they could go as far as 1st place in the seeding, whereas Rip and Tear can move anywhere from 8th if they lost in 2 rounds, all the way up to a win would give them 11 points, so they can move all the way up to 5th. They're not going to be able to secure any sort of home field advantage here today, but they will. This game and the game that's going to come after this, Best Ever versus Giant Pea Shooters, are going to kind of determine all the matchups next week. So it's kind of exciting. Looking at both of these teams here, let's start with the Sexual Panthers. They have 3 wins at the moment. They're looking for a 4th. They're kind of competing with Best Ever for a 1st seed here, but they can finish as low as 4th if they were to lose this game. Last week, they beat the Superchargers in a very close 3-round victory. Dragon, one of their star players, was able to make a flag capture in the final 3-4 seconds of that game and give them that win. That was a huge moment for them, as it kind of made sure that they were going to definitely be in the top of these standings here. The Panthers, I mean, they're in a position to kind of control their destiny with how they want to, who they want to play next week. They're guaranteed home field advantage in the first round, but they're going to use this opportunity to probably try and go for that 1st overall. There is a possibility that if they were to win this game in 2 rounds and Best Ever was to lose later, that Sexual Panthers could be the number 1 seed, Rip and Tear could be the 8th seed, and they could rematch each other next week. So it's kind of interesting to see if that would happen. Human Bones, he's the veteran captain. He's been captain probably for over 20 seasons to this point, this being our 25th season. He's looking to get a big win here today and say that we're number 1 in this league. We're number 1. Best Ever kind of looking like number 1 right now, but they have a shot to take that. Last week, he was kind of more of a support-based role. It'll be interesting to see how he sets up here. He had 14 touches and 38 carriers killed last week. Will he end up playing a mid? Will he end up playing a D? Will he end up playing an O? We've seen him play a little bit of everything this season. So Human Bones, versatile player, just like his second, Dragon, who is a star player in his own right. He was a primary runner last week. The Superchargers definitely felt that when he made that game-winning capture. He had 43 touches and 6 captures last week, but the big stat to look at there is that he was converting almost 14% of his flag touches. When you're scoring at that sort of rate in this league, it's very hard to stop you. Any sort of player that can just pound out a 14% flag capture ratio is someone to be reckoned with. So if Dragon is running this week, he could be another issue for Rip and Tear. With that said, though, Dragon, like Bones, is versatile. He can play any of the positions. I would assume that because he's a European and they're playing on American servers, there's a likelihood that he's going to be kind of sitting in the mid or a running role. So that kind of remains to be seen, but that's what I would predict to see out of him this game. But he's a heavy hitter. And then we're likely to see Toby, who has kind of solidified himself as the third starter. It's possible that we'll see him defend or run. I don't think we'll see him in mid. He's probably considered the third of this team, but he's a great player. He's really fit into their system well. Bones and Dragon have a great rapport, so slotting Toby in there has worked very well for them, and I think that they're going to be competing for that number 1 seed. We possibly will see Shadow Stalker. I'm unsure of it. We have seen him in the past. I think we saw him in week 3. I did have an opportunity to play with him in practices. He was pretty solid. So there's a possibility that, knowing that this game, they already kind of have a home field in the first round, maybe we'll see him. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Rip and Tear, on the other hand, they're kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. They had high expectations coming in. They didn't get their first win until week 3. They weren't able to pull out a win last week. They tied, though, with Best Ever, the best team in the league. But they are in the playoffs due to the earlier games, so a little bit of the pressure is off of them, but they're going to want to try and compete and continue to improve as we go into these playoffs here. So I think that they have a chance to establish themselves as a real threat, not only to the Panthers this week, but to all the other teams in the playoffs coming up next week. Stale, of course, their captain, is one of the highest fraggers in the league. He has just been crushing it on frags and damage. Unfortunately, that kind of hasn't been panning out in the standings, but he's just a strong player, and I think that we will likely see him in a defensive role this week. But that kind of remains to be seen. He could certainly move up and play mid. And then you have Chain and Shane. And everybody right now is kind of on the Shane train, so to speak. That's kind of been the buzz going around the league. Chain, let's talk about Chain first. He created this map. So far this season, map creators are 3-0. That bodes well for Chain. If he could just keep that up, they're going to win this week. If not, it would be the first loss for the map authors. But he's a great player. He's been playing for a long time. Last week, he was probably arguably the star of the week with 7 points, 5 captures, and 2 pickup captures. He can frag, he can run, he can defend, he can do it all. And not only that, this team, that they're going to have really strong comps. So Chain Dude, great player, and it'll be interesting to see if he has anything up his sleeve. At this point, this map has been played so much that it would be hard to imagine that Chain Dude's going to be able to bust out some sort of strategy that we've never seen before. But with that said, I think that we'll see some good play out of him. And Shane, of course, has been kind of emerged as the third of this team without argument. Initially in the preseason, people kind of thought that AVC was going to be the guy. He's out of the league now, and Shane has moved into that spot, and he looks really good with them. So I think that we might see Shane running this week. He's just been crushing touches and bringing in captures and really loosening up mid for Chain Dude and taking a lot of that pressure off the Stallion. So I think that Rip and Tear is probably prepared. Sexual Panthers are going to be prepared. It's going to be a strong game. It could go either way. What do you think?
In terms of where the teams stand right now, I'm much more likely to respect Rip and Tear as having tied BST and given them their first result that was not a victory for them. Rip and Tear really took that finesse map last week and turned it against BST. And with this being also a finesse map and a map that fraggers like Stallion could control and lock down entire zones, I would give them the slight advantage here. But you never really know with against a team like the Panthers with Dragon, Toby, and Bones. Anything could happen.
Absolutely. And before we start, why don't we go over a couple of the key pain points that teams are kind of finding this week? There's really 3 areas of the map that the players are kind of really targeting and making things happen with their high team play. Number 1, right in the mid, both teams have a gate lift that enters the base. So these gates, as you can see right here on the screen, they come down and up very quickly. So it's usually what's happening is that the player in mid is kind of dropping that lift and creating opportunities for the runners, in which case the runner is either kind of coming back out of that, or they're using it to divert attention from the defender in the base. So we're going to see a lot of play there. We're going to see a lot of play across the top there at the pool of water on both sides, which is a typical hiding spot for both of these teams. You're going to see here as the camera pans in, this spot is a nice little alcove for runners to kind of catch their breath, and even though they're exposed, they can be seen. They cannot be shot through that window. So the defenders will see them, but they're not necessarily safe, but their team can move up. We're going to see that in action this game. You can count on that. And number 3, the pipes. Both bases have pipes that enter into the flag rooms, and there's a lot of different plays that can be done here. It was initially thought to be a one-way play where you came out of the pipe into the flag room, but what we found this week is that multiple players have jumped from the teleporter area that you're seeing right back here. They're jumping from here into the pipe. So it'll be interesting to see if we see that this game. Both of these teams don't seem quite exactly like the type of teams that are going to have to utilize that, just because they're so strong up front. I think you're going to see a lot of power where they're pushing against each other in the mid, but players like Dragon are certainly capable of making that jump. So we will see if they're able to utilize that and create that pressure, because that really can spin the head of the defender. It puts them in a situation where they kind of have to rely entirely on their mid to make that save. So we'll see if that gets any play this game. But I think what you're going to see mostly is a lot of play with these lifts in mid, a lot of holding and waiting in these various gate areas. And also one other little area that we should probably point out here, Zen, is in the entrance to each base, there's a little medkit alcove that kind of sits up top, which you're going to see here as we enter the red base. Up in the top area here, you'll see that there's 2 medkits. That's 50 health. It's a huge boon to any runner if they can make it back to their own medkits, but also they can hide there in the opposite base. So I think that we'll see some players in this area, especially if we run into standoff situations, assuming that this game is as close as I expect. And I think those are going to be kind of the key 4 points of the map that are going to make the difference. The mid, both teams are capable of controlling mid. Both teams have capable runners. Both teams have great defenders, assuming that it ends up being somebody like Human Bones versus Stallion on the defenses. They're 2 of the best defenders in the league. So what it's going to come down to is utilizing these 4 different areas to the best of your ability as the runner and the mid, and making the map work for you.
Absolutely. And there's so much that players can utilize movement-wise. Since the map was debuted, a lot of players are using the stairs to jump up into the upper waterside route. Runners are jumping over to the teleport platform and watching back in their base, saying, hey, I see you, you see me. Am I going to take this teleporter or not? There's a lot of finesse that is allowed in the map. One more thing to point out, there are no super shotgun spawns in the map. There are 2 shotgun spawns in mid. There is a chain gun spawn that overlooks the only super shotgun pickup on each team's side. And then there are 2 more shotgun spawns in the base. So it is not, you're not guaranteed the best weapon to fight in a bad situation straight up. So like last week, you are forced to improvise in some ways, and being burned can cost you.
That's a great point, but a counterpoint here is that this map is unlike many in that, as you pointed out, there's two spawns in mid, right? And you know what that does is, if a runner is in the base and say that they're fighting the defender and they beat the defender, there's a possibility that that defender is going to spawn in front of them in mid. So sometimes, as the runner, it's better to actually try and outrun the defender and kind of, you know, burn them, you know, juke them and burn them out of the base, than to kill them. Because when you kill them, you have a very real possibility that they're going to actually spawn in front of you, and you're going to have to fight them again. So if you're fast enough, sometimes if you're able to get them on the back foot, it's better to just run out of the base and hope that your mid can help defend you once you get there, rather than killing that defender and making them spawn at that mid spawn that you can see there with the shotgun up top, which faces in towards their own base, or the one right next to the gate there. So it'll be interesting to.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how the runners react if they have that in mind. Experienced runners usually do think about those sorts of things, so it's a possibility that we'll see these runners kind of focus more on just escaping than necessarily fighting, where in some maps that's something that you want to do. Like in week 1 of this season with map 4, you typically want to kind of fight that defender on the way out, but here it's not always beneficial to you. If Toby is running, you know, he's a great runner, but he's definitely the least experienced on this SXP team, so I don't know if he's going to have the mindset that he's going to do something like that. It'll be interesting to see, whereas the other 5 players are all very experienced within the IDL and WDL life. You know, the 25 seasons, they've played a good amount of games, so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
And one thing to bring up to people who are a little more unfamiliar with Doom's mechanics, the green armor that is spotted in both the sewer tunnels and the water chambers will grant you 1/3 damage reduction. And you know, we briefly talked about how the shotguns, you know, could be slightly disadvantaged with a spawn, but unlike the super shotgun, you have much greater range. The pellet spread is much tighter. When we have seen players drop down from that upper spawn and snipe the runner who's low on health, even as far away as this tunnel, so there's a lot of potential for tenacious defenders to get a respawn up here and still fight very effectively and return their flag. And currently, we're just waiting on Rip and Tear to get their roster together. Looks like the Sexual Panthers are waiting for their game. Looks like they will be playing Dragon, Bones, and Toby. I mean, I do see all of the roster of Rip and Tear in the server, and I believe the players are leaving to restart their demos.
I think we're just waiting on one player from Rip right now.
Now, let me ask you this. We had a really great introduction of both teams. Now, taking that information into account, do you have any outright predictions?
It's a tough one. I mean, even a hard-fought game here can be done in 2 rounds. I think that just kind of judging from the season so far, I'm going to have to give this edge to the Panthers in 2, but I think they're going to be 2 hard-fought rounds, and here we go. Let's find out.
Panthers in 2, round 1 is beginning. We're initially watching Toby as he reaches mid and seems to be taking an offensive role. Grabbing the flag. First touch of the game. Brought down within the own flag base of Rip and Tear. Keeping an eye on offense. Quickly, he's lowering the lift. He's brought down to 0 health on that respawn. Chain, the touch of his own, dropped right next to the SSG. Both teams playing hard through mid.
Yeah, and what you're seeing right now is there is some gate movement where Rip is kind of using that gate, and now you're seeing the gate being used by Toby, who makes it out. So we already have a standoff, and you're seeing that medkit area in play already here that we spoke about. Chain is trying to weather the storm here. He's afraid to come out. He has low health.
So does Toby with 1 health on the edge of returning the flag.
Able to make it out. And just like that, they're able to clean it up there. A close call for both
Yes.
teams, but you're going to see a lot of standoffs like that this game.
Mutual return.
They're going to utilize those spots in a way that buys them time when they get into those standoff situations.
Toby with an armor pickup going out the water side, trying to get out to mid, looking for that support, but intercepted, and the flag is returned.
Toby trying to use that pool there. He's able to grab that armor on the way through, but also it also gives his team an opportunity to get out there in mid, kind of jam things up, and try to get out in the middle of the chaos. So now Chain has a nice run here.
Chain brought down at mid by a quick response from SXP. And for those viewers who are unaware of the port's mechanics with the flag carriers, if you see that glowing border of the screen, red or blue, that is a carrier we're watching. And we were watching it briefly with Toby before he's dropped at the gate trying to get out, but just wasn't able to. But there's many more chances ahead with 7 minutes 40 seconds left on the clock. Game is still tied 0-0. Toby looking to get out through mid. Excellent shot in the tunnels. Another one to follow up. Needs that support. Gets a third one. Fragging his own way through for first blood 1-0.
And that was a great run by Toby. He powered through there. He didn't get held up at mid. He just kept letting his defender in mid kind of assist him as he got through. Focused on the run route.
And here comes Toby again with support from his team, clearing the way. That push from Rip and Tear almost burned themselves because they were pushed up so far, allowing Toby almost free reign of the base.
Yeah, and those are two great runs by Toby, but let's talk about also what's allowing Toby to do that. Dragon is just decimating mid right now. But Chain actually gets loose in the middle of that.
All three runs have been straight through mid. No runs through the sewers. So far, score is now 2-1 in favor of SXP.
Toby's out with another run here.
Yeah, he briefly, but there was no pickup available. Looking at the frag discrepancy, Dragon is fragging really hard at mid, but he's matched for blow with Stal and Chain. Flag dropped and returned. Chain out, looking to capitalize on that with Clever jumping into the water. He's already got armor, but he didn't even need it, getting quickly to his flag unscathed, tying it up 2-2.
And Chain there utilizing that upper route through the pool protects him as his team kind of clears mid and tells him, hey, it's okay to go. But now Toby gets out the gate. And now you're starting to see both teams really start to just apply the pressure compared to the early moments of this game.
And we'll take a look at Dragon for a second as he exerts that pressure on mid, making the other team respect him and limiting their options. In a map like this, there's a lot of options to be limited. Toby had all of his options limited. Flag was dropped in the upper walkway, and it can be left there relatively safely, but there's a lot of danger for a pickup to happen. Chain trying to get out through the base. Triggers the lift to initiate like a feint. Tons of frags at mid. Carriers bump each other's shoulders on the way. The flag is returned for Chain, but he's caught in the corner and dropped by a carrier. Flag's returned. It looks like it may be a mutual return here.
But SXP is now out of position. One thing that we're seeing here, and Toby probably could have had a pretty solid run there. A drawback to the amazing play by Dragon here, already has 45 frags in mid, which is incredible. When he's killing everybody, when Toby grabs that flag, there's a good chance that they're all spawning around Toby. So it's not always going to be beneficial to just frag everybody, but for the most part, Dragon has been doing the heavy lifting. You'll see that the defender, Human Bones, only has 15 frags at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see how they continue to regulate that traffic through mid for their runners and defenders. As Chain gets a great touch here.
It's quickly returned, and looking at the frags on the leaderboard, Stallion with 51 frags going blow for blow with Dragon out at mid. It's a slugfest between these two titans as the rest of the team tries to finesse their way past everyone else. Chain looking to try to get out with the flag there, but unfortunately was not able to. Toby making a run of his own. We're going to watch him for just a second as he's dropped at mid. Mid control is important. This might be one of the matches where strong fraggers have tried to control mid the entire time. Toby trying to get out, looks for that cover, gets the cover, low on health. The flag has to be returned. But it looks like
is able to hold here.
Gets away. Using that hard cover, hiding with, but he's spotted there, but he was able to.
Great run by Chain, huge kill. Great awareness as he comes around that corner and gets the guy waiting for him. Somebody likely called that out to him and said, hey, there's one in. And Chain was probably aware, cognizant that could be a possibility as he entered the base. So
well, Chain saw him through the window.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. And that kind of awareness is what can make the difference if someone's hunting a flag carrier. We're going to be switching over to Dragon as he makes more work of mid. 2 minutes. We're hit the 3-minute mark. Anything could happen. We've seen the tide turn relatively quickly in all the previous games this week.
Yeah, 2 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock, but I mean, that's an eternity on this map, especially with only 2 to 3 flags in the balance here. I think it's important to point out the work that Stallion is doing. He's about to hit 70 frags, even though both teams are tied up here as they go into this standoff. And
Toby with 2 frags on the way out, flags returned, and he ties it up 3-3 with 2 minutes left to go. It's anyone's game. Chain looking to exit the base, but he has to contend with Bones, who gets the advantage and returns the flag. Little lift play on the screen right now, but is successfully defended by some rocket work from Bones. Toby with a pickup, trying to find his way out after a frag. He's got 26 health, and it's not enough to shoulder a full shotgun blast to the forehead.
Tried to get his way out to mid there, but there just were too many people spawning around him and in front of him, and that's just kind of the nature of the map. Now they're coming up on 1:40 here, tied up 3-3 with the first round. It'll be interesting to see if a team decides we're going to go for, everything. We're going to throw the kitchen sink at them and see if we can create some scoring conditions here with 1:25 left. Neither team really is doing so far, but find out here shortly.
Stallion trying to actually stand on that lift to force it lower for Chain in a run, but it just didn't work out. Clever tactic, but you're kind of putting all your eggs in a basket, giving up that mid control.
Yeah, absolutely. When you start clearing out that mid, you leave opportunities for a runner to sneak right on through, especially if they're coming through that pool area, or if they're able to make that that gate run, or even into the pipe, which is a bit more rare. We haven't seen that this game.
Dragon out to mid with 1 health, but it is 1 health that is quickly chipped off. Flag return with 40 seconds left to go. Only a couple runs possible left in round 1. We could see a tie to start off the series. Chain out, trying to get out, but dropped right outside the water chamber. 25 left on the clock. Chain looking for another touch, has to contend with a defender, doesn't happen. Toby out to mid, great frag, has to deal with 1, but they get the shot off quickly before he reloads.
And 10 seconds about to be on the clock here, unless someone's able to grab it right now. It looks like we're going to be going 3 rounds. So far, Chain has a touch, and looks unlikely to have a capture. So we're going to be looking at a 3-round game as they tie this first one up, and truthfully, so far it's been pretty close. Chain and Toby have kind of been the stars of the show running. Human Bones and Stallion have kind of been handling the back ends, but the distribution has been a little bit different, whereas Stallion is handling most of the work from the defensive and back mid-end. Dragon has been handling it up front, and they've kind of been going back and forth as top fraggers for the teams.
It's rare to see Stallion being matched blow for blow on frags, but Dragon is doing it, meaning that in terms of attrition, it's really anyone's game at mid.
It's true, and both teams really kind of trying to fight to establish it right now. It looks like Rip is able to kind of take it in the opening moments of this game here. And Shane has been running the defensive end at the moment.
Shane doing some damage. out at mid, doing some mid control, limiting the options of runners from the Panthers. And now he's a quick return. Both teams feeling each other out right now, not overcommitting on offense. And we're going to disable messages.
Nobody wants to be the first to get scored on, right? What the heck?
Well, we have an intruder. And that was a minor distraction, but we'll get right back into it with Chain out to mid. And the tempo of the game has been reestablished. And either that was on my end, or... Oh, maybe I was lagging. And if you're still with us...
Still here.
Okay, I didn't know if that was on my end, or... I heard a little bit of voice from you, but I think it got cut off. But we're looking at a relatively tied game right now with 8 minutes left to go. Dragon trying to get out to mid, but it doesn't happen. So after dealing briefly with that intruder, tempo of the game is back. Bones overseeing flag defense for the Panthers at the moment. While Shane appears to be looking for invaders in his own base. Switching over to Stallion as he takes mid with force. Looking to draw Bones away from that lift. Chain out to mid. Toby looking to get his own way out to mid, but he's dropped. Both carriers dropped mutual return.
Quite a fair so far compared to the first game. You know, we're 3 minutes in, it's 0-0 in the second round. They tied the first round. Waiting for the first strike to happen.
And Toby takes a little bit of a bath in the acid. Well, that's alright. Just get right back up. Toby with a pickup, going out to mid with 50 health. Chain with a full stack of armor and health, looking to drop the runner. Will he return for his own team? He does. Might cost him a little bit of movement.
Chain could, if he can move it along here, he should have a capture. Assuming that Rip's able to jam up mid.
And they were. 1-0 in round 2 for Rip and Tear. We'll navigate the spectator camera out to mid, kind of give us a general overview of what's happening. A quick pickup from Dragon, but it was denied. Going back to watch Chain with a pickup.
Oh, and SXP runs an amazing coordinated effort there where Toby came in through the pipe, and before he even jumped out of the pipe, I believe it was Dragon dropped the lift gate, so that once Toby grabbed it, he was able to get over the gate and it locked out the defender. Now, they wasn't able to make it across, but if they're able to keep that sort of pressure on, that's something that's going to turn into scores.
Chain refueling up at the top podium, but he doesn't get that one kill shot. Toby dogged down by 2 defenders. No runner making a really decisive move other than Chain a little bit earlier, but Dragon says, I'm going to try to change that. Takes the teleporter out, goes waterside, grabs armor and a stim pack. He's got health, he's got armor. Does he have the support he needs to secure the capture? And he does. Ties it up 1-1.
Yeah, and that's a great run by Dragon. He was able to kind of do a fairly straightforward run, but he just kept the momentum moving. Now they're in a standoff here.
Chain with some health, Toby with not so much health. Toby looking to... Oh, he's got a defender right next to him. I don't think he saw him in time. But Chain... And that was all Chain needed to make that run. Yeah, unfortunately for Toby, I'm not sure he saw it on his client. Such is the way of things as Rip and Tear is up by 1 flag, bringing it 2-1 for them halfway through round 2. Toby getting through mid in what could have been
Looks like Toby having a little bit of
Yeah,
lag.
it's
Minor,
little bit of a hiccup, but it was good enough for Toby to get through. Even though his team was executing excellent cover at the time. Game is now tied 2-2 in round 2. Toby going out to mid, but doesn't have the support he needs to secure the run. Chain going out to the teleporter, trying to get to Waterside where he has that hard cover. Gets the armor, but doesn't have a whole lot of health. Doubling back. Is he looking for that med kit? Yes, he is. Gets a little bit of a med kit, allowing his team to push up. He's got spawns behind him, 1 health. But nobody even comes...
Wow.
One health in a dream.
1 health.
3-2.
That armor really came in handy. It saved him.
That might be one of the few times we've caught the armor on a low health run make the difference. Chain looking to make even more of a difference for his team. They're up by 1 flag, but Chain says, I'm going to get +2.
And this could be 2 flags in 1 life for Chain. This would be a great score if he's able to pull this off.
He's chased.
Not something that you very often in this league.
Gets 1 through the water, but is returned, and they were able to secure that run, tying it back up 3-3. It's blow for blow, rounds 1 and 2. No team coming away with a huge advantage.
Right now, they're tied back up just like they were in the first round, and it's anybody's game at this point as we're getting around 2 minutes and 30 seconds, 3/4 of the way through the game, through the round.
Chain with a full stack, going out to mid, right past a bunch of defenders.
There we saw exactly what we talked about in the pregame, where killing the defenders actually put them in front of them, and they were able to. SXP was able to get that return.
Yeah, we do see sometimes runners calculate if they should shoot a defender in the back who's unaware that they're so close, or if they just go for it and hope they get a spawn behind them. It's a dice roll. We're watching Shane kind of snake his way into the base, looking for those med kicks, but they're just not there. He at least gets a touch in, but is reset quickly.
And let's take a look at Stal for a moment here. Stal has really been... Well, I don't want to jinx him.
Chain looking to get out, Toby looking to get out. Both runners looking pretty healthy. They have to burn a couple defenders on their way out, but Toby's dropped. Chain gets that cover he needs and run successful. Conversion for 4-3 in favor of Rip and Tear in round 2. Dragon doesn't have the distance he needs to get past those 2 defenders behind him.
What I wanted to point out is that this round is looking a lot different than the first round, where both teams are very close in frag. Stal has 71 right now. The next closest in the entire server is Dragon with 52. So Stal is putting in big work this round. He is just kind of dominating. He's going for runs. He's going for mid. He's doing everything. He's kind of been an unsung hero. Besides, he's the workhorse for this team. So
Stal showing that he has still got those clean, crisp shots that established him as a frag monster many years ago. Bones looking for that return. He says, I dropped him up top. Please return the flag. I need it. And it's not there. It's returned. And it was...
And they're able to tie it up. But the game's not over. There's 15 seconds left, and either team can score right here, and that would be hugely beneficial to either team. It looks like Rip is probably going to get it, and they do. And Rip takes this round with 5 seconds less on the clock, barely any time on the clock.
And that, I checked the comments for a second. That was an automatic flag return for the decider flag in round 2.
We're going to go into the third round here, and now Rip kind of holding all the cards. They can't lose this game. They can only tie or win. If they tie this round, then Rip takes the entire game. SXP has to win this round in order to force a tie condition and split the points in this game. And that's going to definitely harm SXP's chances, to get that #1 seed.
And we're
But it puts
watching.
Rip in a position to move all the way up to the 5th seed.
Oh, well, there you go. But Chain, little server hiccup, or it could have been on my end. I'm not actually sure. But we're back, and Toby with a run. But runs in. Oh, there's pickup? No, I can't. No, the pickup was returned. Just for a second, a glimmer of hope. But there's still 9 minutes left on the clock. Toby.
Yeah, plenty of time here. But when you look at the scoreboard, it's 0-0 right now. Technically speaking, the Panthers are down. A tie here is not going to do it for them. They need to win this round. So, as it stands, they're kind of down.
We are in round 3, essentially a tiebreaker round. Chain with a great capture. And we're watching Shane kind of dodge those rockets on up top. They're well aware that he's up there waiting for an opportunity. He decides to take it. But he has to contend with a couple defenders. One right behind him.
Shane out the lift, but he is swarmed by the Panthers there. They were ready for it. They were communicating it.
A little bit more time was needed for Chain to work his magic, a little bit more support. But they're up by 1 flag, and that's an excellent position for Rip and Tear to be in. Style
Absolutely.
now with the flag.
Technically, they're kind of up by 2. You know, they don't care if they tie here. They just don't want to lose.
Chain with a touch on his own right after it gets returned out of Styles' hands. He's got the health. He's got some armor to work with. Gets 1 frag, but he doesn't get 2. And that's Toby. Now Toby has to cross.
Toby does make it across. That flag is sitting up top, but Chain with a great return. And now Rip is kind of firing all cylinders. You know, in the first round, it really felt like SXP had a slight edge of momentum, but Rip has really kind of just taken this game over. They are out-fragging SXP dramatically since the first round.
And yeah, the frag discrepancy currently shows 68 to 46 total. Dragon in his base, yeah.
Anytime we have anything to say, usually the other team seems like they're listening to us and they respond. So
they're like, all right. So we're looking at a tie game currently in round 3 with an advantage to Rip and Tear in round 2, meaning that Rip cannot lose.
Great interaction by Chain, dude. He drops the gate. It pulls the mid defenders back towards the gate, expecting him to come out there. He switched to the main entrance, and he was able to get past them, and his other 2 players were able to clean up mid, Stal and Chain. So, great run by Chain, great team play by Rip. They're really starting to click here. And it seems like
Chain with a rocket jump across mid. And ridiculous.
So we said in the pregame we weren't sure if Chain could bust anything out that we haven't seen this week, and he does.
And excellent work from Chain, not colliding with any of those outstanding features of the map. A very clean jump across mid, which we haven't seen so far this week, period. We have seen a couple tricks debuted from some runners. Disparel showing off that teleporter pad to Stewart jump, but now Chain Dude says, oh, you can rocket jump on this map, no problem. Dragging out to mid, but drop down swiftly. Toby with a pickup of his own, looking for that support out mid, but he's got low health. Trying to get out. Bones with a pickup. It's returned.
Now, it's not the end of the world for SXP, but they do need to clean it up. There are 5 minutes left, so it's a lot of time to work with. But they're going to need to score at least 3 flags and hold Rip scoreless from this point on.
Still have 5 minutes to go. And I believe we're back. I think I got disconnected from Discord for a second. But we're not going to try to miss this game. Wow, I actually got an error there. And, sorry guys. I don't know what happened. I got disconnected from everything. But, we're back. That I am disconnected from Discord. I cannot reconnect. So, let's take a look real quick at what we're looking at here. It's not TBW versus DMS, but we're in round 3 of SXP and Rip and Tear. So I apologize for that interruption. I can't communicate with my co-host right now. Discord has completely failed to reconnect. We're looking at Stallion trying to make it across. The game is currently tied 3-3. And while things are super quiet, I'm going to try to figure out why Discord is being the way it is. I cannot seem to reconnect to Discord, but that's... Well, actually, Ralph, if you are listening... Let's move over to TeamSpeak real quick. But Chain and Dragon out for their respective teams. Dragon going out through mid. But it's a mutual return. Stallion and Toby out with their teams. And we're back with Ralphis.
Yep, and during that little interlude there, SXP was able to fight their way back. They clawed their way back. They were doing an excellent job. Tied up 3-3 here with about 2 minutes and 10 seconds to go on the clock. Stallion and Toby both in a standoff. It's going to be a critical moment. If SXP is able to get ahead here, they have a real shot at getting this extra point.
We're looking at Bones and Stallion in a standoff situation. With less than 2 minutes on the clock.
Stal is kind of playing that pool, and Bones is in the other pool. Both are opposite of each other. Now, Bones is probably going to run into Stal. They're both in the pool together.
And Toby's now out with the flag. Dragon staring down a rocket launcher and back out to mid. It's returned. It's returned for blue, but Bones still has to make this run across mid. And he meets a rocket. Oh, that's right. I gotta change that. Sorry, friends.
So now we're looking at a minute left. SXP is just going to have to go for it. They have to win this round to get that point.
And it looks like... Let's try to look at the frag discrepancy here real quick, but there's not a whole lot to talk about. Bones is out. Body blocked.
And
Chain
blocks Bones at the entrance, and Rip goes up, and unless SXP can roll off 2 flags in the next 30 seconds here, Rip is going to take this game in a 3-round slobber knocker.
And what a close game this is overall, no matter the result we see in 20 seconds. Toby out to mid, but it's dropped and returned to Chain. Looking to get out with 80 health. Dragon, this could be the final run for both teams. Chain, can he make it to the podium? 5.
Chain's going to probably just put one on just to...
And that is it. It's closed out. 5-3 in round 3, leading Rip to win in 3.
Great game by Rip and SXP. Both teams played really hard, very well. But Chain was able to continue the author winning streak, and map authors go 4-0 this week. So, and we'll get stats up here in a moment if you don't mind vamping.
Absolutely. That's I'm actually kind of staring at Streamlabs right now. The application does not seem to want to actually work. I'm actually not sure if I'm still broadcasting.
You are, I think.
I have no controls available to me. It looks super weird. So bear with us while we look at this black screen. I can't seem to change the... So bizarre. whatever happened to Discord caused a chain reaction. So I apologize to everyone who's viewing what is undoubtedly an incredible game from both teams.
Yeah, and both teams did play really sharp. I think the standout player of this game probably had to be Chain Dude, just passing the eye test. Um, Looked great.
And let's see. Yeah, the chat controls still work, but everything else is like gone. All right. Well, we're waiting on stacks. And thanks for sticking through all the little technical difficulties we've had. Very unprecedented. And a shout out to my co-host Ralph for excellent coverage and being able to quickly recover from my disconnection from Discord.
That's okay. We seem to pick it up, and that's why we do not rely entirely on Discord for everybody that calls us old and crusty on TeamSpeak.
It's good. It is good to have a backup option. Are you disconnected from Discord, by the way?
I don't seem to be, but no, I'm definitely not.
Must be my end. It's stuck on connecting.
So that was a pretty exciting game. I mean, they pretty much went almost about 10 minutes each. Still working on getting these stats up here.
And I Yellowtail, I do not believe that it's a router issue. I think something happened in the background of the computer. Because when Discord went down, it took Streamlabs down with it. Very odd stuff. We'll have the stacks posted in the chat in a second. We can kind of go over that before we end.
I do have stats up. I'm going to post them for you in the chat. So for anybody that's still sticking around, here are the stats from the game. And pretty close. Very close fought game. Looking at the stats here, both teams have pretty good capture percentages. You'll see that in the later rounds, Rip was just getting quality touches. They were getting way less touches than SXP. Rip had 16 to the Panthers 29 touches in round 3, but were able to convert 29% of them. So that's pretty impressive. And the Panthers are, no joke. I mean, they were converting 9% of their touches on 29. So that's pretty impressive. For the most part, both teams had over 10%. So their runners were being very mindful, being very meticulous with the way that they moved about. Their defenders and their mids were, clearly communicating with each other and just kind of, making sure that they were trying to take care of each other as best as they could. At the end of the day, across a almost 30-minute game, you're looking at a 3-flag swing. And the last flag scored by Rip, you can kind of understand that, maybe the Panthers were kind of trying to go all out to get that last score, but really a two flag difference over the 30 minutes that kind of decided this. Pretty impressive game by both teams. I think that both are primed to make serious statement in the playoffs. I'm sure that the Panthers will come out next week ready to, prove that this was not their best. And I'm sure that Rip is going to work to make sure that they can kind of continue this momentum as they move up into the number 5 seed. So it's actually, well, I can tell you the matchup next week, looking at the math, given the final game tonight. Next week, we are going to see a rematch of the Sexual Panthers versus Rip and Tear. Rip and Tear will be playing on the Panthers' home fields on the first two rounds, so the Panthers do have that advantage. But this is going to be a straight up rematch this week. The Panthers will host Rip and Tear next week, and it should be exciting to see.
Yeah, that should absolutely be exciting to see a rematch. And real quick before we toss this stream over to somebody else, explain how the home field system works.
Sure, absolutely. So the way it works is that we have a map pack that includes 32 maps. That includes the 5 weeks that we play during the regular season, as well as maps that we play in pickup games, throughout the year. The way that it works is that opposite of the draft nomination order that we had 2 months ago when the teams are selected, teams select their home field preference. So once they select a home field, depending on the standings, the team that is better in the standings will have what we call home field advantage. But just like any sort of professional sport, anyone that's familiar with the NBA or NFL, NHL, all those sports, the team with home field advantage. When we move into the playoffs here, the format changes a little bit, and it becomes a best of five. So what you're ensured is that both teams are going to get a chance to play on their maps. We're going to see the first two rounds is always going to go to the team that places better. They're going to play on their home field, and then the third and fourth round will go to the lower standing team, get a chance to play on their home field. So, there's definitely an advantage to the team that does better. If it goes to a fifth round, it goes back to the better teams, in the standing wise, their home field, and then it'll just alternate from there. So we have seen some 5 and 6 round playoff games. They've been a lot of fun and exciting. So I think we'll see a lot of excitement. Teams have to prepare for two maps, no matter what. There's certain strategies that you have to consider. Okay, we're the better team. We're going to get a chance to play our map twice. If we could just win our map against everybody, we don't really care about the other team. Whereas the team with the lower standing, they have to kind of win or they have to win or at least force it back to their map when they're playing on that top team's map. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think that we're going to see a lot of exciting matchups. And we're going to get to see a rematch of this really close game next week, which should be super exciting. So I'm sure that the Panthers want some retribution and a chance to get back at Rip and Tear here. It'll be interesting overall. And tonight, after the final game, I think we're going to see the final standings start to pan out. Right now, the only thing that can really change is best ever, where they're going to finish. If they win, they're going to move up. Actually, I think that best ever actually has the tiebreaker. Right now, they're in a tiebreaker scenario, so there's a possibility that Boomstick Warriors or best ever would be the number one team. But if best ever wins tonight, they'll move to the number one seed, and this will all kind of start to pan out, and we will post the matchups for next week. So it'll be interesting to see. For the other two teams that didn't make it into the playoffs, Demon Slayers and Giant Pea Shooters, they played great seasons. Not everybody can make it into the playoffs, unfortunately. All the teams are great, and we wish them the best, and we had a lot of fun playing with them. Giant Pea Shooters, of course, have one more game tonight, just to kind of for bragging rights. Maybe they can finish with some more points against best ever or play spoiler. So it should be exciting, and that game is tonight at 8 o'clock, I believe. And will you be casting that one, Nick?
I will not be because I will be playing in it, but
right.
I believe it's possible Alpha might be casting it. I'm not sure if anyone will be, so I'm hesitant to throw out names. But if you haven't already bookmarked the website, as results happen, as games are scheduled, as matchups occur, they will show up in the schedule page. And any VOGs you might have missed, we'll have them on the World Doom League YouTube as well. But we're going to close this one out right now while I still have the stream operational. But big shout out to Ralph for coming on and explaining a lot of how the league operates in the playoffs and also for the excellent color commentary. Thank you, Ralph.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And everybody tune in tonight if you're able to. At least we'll have the standings up probably by about 8:30 Eastern time, and we'll kind of look forward to the playoffs where the top 8 teams are going to square off, and it should be very exciting. I expect to see a lot of upsets this year. So,
Awesome. And we'll be we'll be leaving it without a play out because I can't change any assets on the stream, but I am aware of Jahar from Tasty Spleen doing a Judas July tournament on Z Damon, and that is happening right now. So if I can get this to work, then I'll initiate a raid over to there, say hi to Jahar, watch some classic Doom duels, and we'll see you next weekend here on this channel for playoff coverage. Have a great rest of your Sunday, everybody.
okay.
I'm not sure how I'm even going to close this window. I guess I just have to end it.
What is going on with the
I'll take a. I always want to take a screenshot. It's
Yo, what are these
insane.
graphics on Jahar's thing?